Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, type something in the chat just so I know the mic is working and the audio is fine. Unless there's nobody in here at the moment. Yo, Eddie. Yo, Zay. You guys can hear me alright, yeah? Yeah, Sunday's chill. I have to bounce a little bit later to head home, but just doing the stream slightly earlier. I might actually start streaming at around 10 p.m. or like half 10 instead of 11. Just because 11 is a little bit late. But how's your weekends? Here we go. I think it's just Doobie at the moment, but it's fine. I need to do this slightly earlier, so it's going to be recording regardless and people can just rewatch that, so it's fine. How are your weekends? Is there much of the day? Smooth. Yeah man, this quarter is going to be mad. Is it a smooth 500 pip drawdown this week? As in you're in 500 pips of drawdown or what? Hey Tony, welcome. Is it you're in 500 pips of drawdown right now? Like what? Or do you mean gold is going to drop another 500 pips? Okay. Well, we'll have a look. Yo, Hus. Sup. Welcome to the streams. Right, I'm just gonna get started, guys. It's got 30 seconds, but might as well, right? So monthly, we're closing in a couple hours, right? So this is September. October is going to start, and it's going to open up in about an hour or two, right? So let's have a look. Where what gold is doing, right? So you can say that towards the end of September we started driving pretty aggressively to come down. We broke the highs of the monthly, and then we started driving down all within like 2 weeks, and these 2 weeks right here. So gold is very aggressively moving down, and obviously, right, it's rejected heavily off of this level at 1928, right? So now that we're breaking into these ranges, like we've broken below, I would say, you know, on the weekly, right, we've broken below this range here, right? There's some support, some resistance here. We've broken below 1855. So what's going to happen, right? It's likely that we're going to come and fill the next range down, and that next range looks to be down around these sorts of areas on the weekly, right? So it's likely that price will come down to around 1812, maybe even slightly lower, 1807, or if it wants to grab liquidity before reversing or grabbing liquidity to come back down, it will do so at around these sorts of areas like 1782, grab liquidity towards 1900s or even higher, and then start coming down. So in terms of the month, right, what do we understand? Like, the monthly range is between here and I would say around here. So I would say this is your monthly range. So in any time frame, you would expect once price to break into a range, it would fill the range. So we're likely going to see this being filled, right? It's this to here. It's very likely this will get filled. Likely this, if not even down to like these sorts of areas. So if price is going to fill those ranges, cool, we can continue taking ourselves to come down. If we're taking ourselves to come down, we will be looking for top wicks on the lower time frames, so that it's grabbing, you know, short-term liquidity to come back down. But once it hits these kinds of levels, right, around 1828 to 1816 sorts of areas, we're then looking for potentially price to make a decision, right? So it could be a buy around here if it starts respecting on the 4 hour and the 1 hour, for it to come up to grab more liquidity. Either that, or case two would be for it to change of structure and then start bouncing up. But then, like at these sorts of levels, that's where we're really interested in terms of the weekly, the monthly candles, right? So we're obviously very bearish for the month. We're expecting a top wick for the monthly, because, you know, it's very rare that the monthlies have no top wicks or bottom wicks, right? Like in all of these cases, most of the time, I would say 90% of all of these candles have top wicks and bottom wicks. The previous monthly, well, 2 months ago, so the August candle didn't have a top wick. So if it does come up to break those highs, at around 1993 and then it starts coming down, you're still like, you can still say that price is in this range, right? Like even if you say price is currently, you know, like let's say there is a range around here, you've got some candles respecting, some respecting, right? So you've broken down, you're going to fill the range. If you do come back up, you will fill this range as well. If you close on the lower time frame, and that's like the daily or whatever, above 1914, you will come up to fill that range. And if you do, that could be the monthly top wick for August, and then you're going to start driving down again, right? Because that's just following market structure. I would say currently though, like if this, because this monthly candle is going to close like somewhat like this, right? We'll have to look on the lower time frame to see if it's respecting anything. There is a chance that it is respecting some smaller levels, but this doesn't look to be much of a bottom wick, right? So last time price didn't have a bottom wick. Like I'm looking at this, right? Sure, it continued to drive, but not before creating top wicks, right? It needed to grab liquidity before coming down. So this is the monthly candle. We're not going to get anything based on the monthly, but you know, we can drop down to lower time frames and see what's up. So bearish for the month. Understanding that the weekly closed very bearish with no top wick, right? Doesn't need a top wick. We analyzed this before. There's a top wick already for the previous week. So if it is driving down, let's see, like we have a level around here. We have another level. I'd say it's honestly just around here. Yeah, somewhere around these sorts of areas, I would say is another level. Let's have a look. Is there any other data? No, there isn't. No, so let's just say price is in this kind of these zones here, right? So if you've come down similar to what happened here, right? What happened here? What happened here? Oh, wrong thing. What happened here, right? What happened here as well? It just came to fill the range, and also what happened here. Here and also here. So there's a lot of times price drove into this range, and every time it did, driving from above to come down, it filled the range towards 1806, right? It doesn't matter where you look, right? Every single time. And like even here, right? You close respecting, you filled the range, right? You broke above, you probably filled the next range above, closed back below, filled the range. So it's like it's such a high chance that you will come down to fill the range eventually. You don't know when that is, but it will eventually. So how can we take, like now that we know that price, when it comes into this range, it just fills, what do we typically, or what do we want to see before it comes down, right? I'm looking at where grab liquidity. So in these cases, right, grab liquidity here. Here, grab liquidity here. Actually, let me just shift the boxes so that they're the right like kind of areas. So we're looking at top wicks there. We're looking at top wicks here, looking at top wicks here, right? This one is slightly higher, top wicks around there. This one is very high. Grab liquidity towards these sorts of areas, and with this one as well, I would say you've grabbed liquidity towards these sorts of areas, right? So it's nice, very, very clean, right? It drove straight down after grabbing liquidity, exactly what we're expecting and exactly what we want to take in terms of positions, right? So every time price broke below, let's say, let's find a closer sort of area to look at in terms of a level, right? We could potentially look at this as a level as well. So what does this look like here? Looks okay. Just yeah, cool. So every time price, you know, started to close below these sorts of areas, filled this range, it came out to grab liquidity again before falling down. So I'm looking for potential sells on the weekly and potential daily at these sorts of areas, right? 1877, right? Obviously, if you take into account market structure as well, you've come down, done this, right? You've come down. It's likely going to tap some area around 1877 to 1885 because that's your next lower low, right? Your previous lower low. So if you tap these areas, it's likely you're going to continue bearish structure around there. So around kind of 1877 up to around, I would say, yeah, I would probably have, you know, if it was a weekly trade, something around there. But obviously it's not, so I'm just going to keep this level in mind for now, right? And I'm going to drop to the daily. So what did the daily do? If you look at this, the daily already grabbed this liquidity, right? So it's grabbed liquidity from 1878. Cool. Last time price did that, I'm just looking at, you know, where where these boxes are and what they look like on the daily, right? This grabbed liquidity slightly higher, around 1888, 1889. This one tapped exactly that level. This exactly that level, right? This one grabbed it slightly higher. This one grabbed it even higher, right? But now that price has grabbed liquidity at 1878, there is a chance that it won't need more liquidity to start breaking down. You see this, right? You see on the daily, you've grabbed liquidity towards these sorts of areas, and now you're breaking below 1856. 1856 is a pretty strong daily support as well, right? Because you're looking at these, you're looking at this fake out here, looking at this fake out here, you're looking at these, all of this is pretty nice, right? So let's look at what price does every time it closes below here, right? So now we can shift these boxes so that they look at these areas instead. All right, so what did price do last time it closed? Here, you know, it just closed, it just broke below and just filled, but it grabbed liquidity towards here, so there's a high chance price will just fill, right? What happened here, right? It came down, broke below, didn't need liquidity because it grabbed it around here, just filled, right? Last time price broke below here, it grabbed liquidity towards these sorts of areas, filled. So there is a chance that you won't get any, on the daily at least, you won't get any entries before price kind of looks to fill the range down to around, I would say around here, yeah, around 1814. There's a high chance that price will just fill the range in one strong push, like it did here, right? Clean traffic here. So we have to then again look for more entries on a lower time frame, because this candle again is a daily candle, right? I'm interested in this top wick, but I'm also interested in the next top wick, right? Because if it closes below, if it does come up to break the next high like it did here, close below, broke the highs, come back down, I'm interested. So what does that look like in terms of our price? So we have to drop down to the 4 hour next to analyze that. So look at this, right? This is beautiful. This is exactly what a liquidity grab looks like, right? You've closed respecting on the 4 hour, no top wick, came up, broke the highs of the general structure above as well, and now you're starting to push down. There is no need for price to grab much more liquidity. But let's look at what the 4 hour ranges look like. So I would say there's another range, I'd say it's probably here. This is probably your next range below. Yeah, I'm happy with this. I'm pretty happy with this as a level. All right, let's just double check that. Yeah, so cool. Every time price grabbed liquidity here, it filled here, but it didn't continue down, right? And we're looking for this push to come down to around 1814, maybe even like I would say 1821 to tap first, or even 1818. So these sorts of areas to tap first. So I'm going to adjust this line to around here. There's another range below, right? So I would say this is your next range below, but you have many ranges in between. So let's say this is another range as well. So because price currently hasn't broken below 1846 due to this red line being above, right? So it could do something similar to this, whereas it's grabbed liquidity sort of around these sorts of areas. So let's mark this up. What does this look like, right? It's already faked out above there, so it's grabbed even more liquidity than it needs, so it's not really mirroring this push here, right? Last time price did, it was looking to mirror this sort of stuff. So once you get, you know, potentially price breaking through here, you know, it's going to fill the range, right? And we can look to take sells potentially if it does something similar to this. So these are more aggressive, so these would become breakouts, right? We're looking for breakout trades now, and instead of wick trades, because we're understanding that it's still very bearish. We might not get an entry on the wick, but we will get an entry on the breakout. So if that happens, right, if price is looking to, you know, create structure, break that structure, create a top wick, we potentially would be looking for the flip. Or if it continues to just drive, if it drives below 1846, creates a top wick for this 4 hour, we potentially could get sells to come down. And this is just based off of this, right? Like if I'm just looking here, when price came below, tap these sorts of areas, it tapped actually a lot higher around here, right? When price comes below around those sorts of areas, then I'm more focused on this now, right? I'm looking at this now potentially. It could be faking out again, or I could be looking for another fake out for it to come back. So this area is around this top wick here, or like, you know, I'm looking at this fake out here, right? So around these sorts of areas for sells now. I'm going to mark this up as a sell for now, and I'm going to look left to see what this level looks like, right? So I'm understanding this is a top wick on the 4, right? I'm understanding that every time price just starts driving down, has no bottom wick, came back up to create that, that liquidity grab, and then start driving down. So with how price currently looks, if you get a sell, it would be at around 1858 sorts of levels, right? And yeah, sorry Bougie, I had to start earlier. I had something to do later, but yeah, hope it's alright. Yeah, so my sells are around these sorts of areas, because I'm understanding that price has already come up to here, grab this liquidity, and we're looking for it to fill the range down to around, you know, these higher time frame ranges, down to eventually 1809, right? On the daily, what is the next range it wants to fill? Probably down to around 1829 sorts of areas, right? If not, on the 4 hour, what is the next range it wants to fill? If it breaks below 1846, you know, you could be filling some smaller ranges, right? It's ranges around here, so could be filling 1834, around these sorts of areas, right? Like if you fill these sorts of areas, I'll probably exit full, right? Because I know that's your next 4 hour range. So if I'm trading on the 4 hour as my main time frame that I'm looking at, I'll have my TP here, or like TP1 here or something. So yeah, that's pretty good. So let's have a look again on the daily. All right, so I'm looking for buys now. Let's see where we can potentially get buys. Buys obviously is a bit harder. You don't want to catch a falling knife, but you also want potential buys, because those are still positions, right? Last time it drove through, you know, we could be potentially getting buys at these areas, or potentially, you know, look at these bottom wicks here, right? You could get a buy here, could get a buy here to get more liquidity to come back down, right? So buys are still valid, but we need structure. So at the moment there isn't structure. So at the moment I cannot get buys, but I can only advise you in terms of, or I can only look in terms of where price is likely to start ranging and creating a structure. So I'm looking at these areas, right? Around 1829. I'm less looking at 1846 because we are currently there already, right? If price wants to create that top wick here, cool, I'll get my sells, but I will not be looking for buys here, because I understand that if we're looking for buys here, it could just continue like further down. It grabbed liquidity higher than this one last time, right? It grabbed liquidity towards these sorts of areas, so it can just start driving down. So taking a buy at around 1846 is difficult. A buy at 1829 I will probably highlight for now, but it is depending on structure, right? So here on the daily you had 3 candles respecting, like these 2 candles, I would say this is kind of doji, but like these candles here were respecting 1829. So once you got that, you potentially could have got buys around here, but you need structure. At the moment, the only buys I would take are if it wicks into 1829 very aggressively, very aggressively, and then I'll probably look to take a buy. So something similar to this, right? I'd be looking not for this move to come up, no, not this move, but I would be looking to take the wick. So if that was the 1 hour, right? Oh, sorry, it is here. If that was the 1 hour, right? This is the 1 hour on the. This is a 4 hour wick here. What I would potentially look to catch is I'll look for an initial position here, and I'll literally get out at like 10 pips. Why? Because I understand that price needs to make a decision towards this kind of area. So if it does make a decision, cool. I can look to potentially get. Oh, there's not enough data. What is this? This is the 19th of September. Okay, so yeah, so around here, right? So once price gets into here, I will take a buy right here, and I'll only be looking to catch up to potentially here, because I'm understanding that this is still structure, right? You're coming down, you've come down, so I'm only taking a buy at around these areas to retouch this, right? And what is that range? Let's have a look. What is this range in terms of its size? It's about 20 pips, right? I will take that if it wicks very aggressively. Even this, if it's creating this, I'm still doubtful, because you've already created a bottom wick here, right? For this, grab liquidity. Your next push is not going to be just tiny amounts before you change of structure, right? So, yeah, buys potentially at 29. Sorry, let's get rid of this. And then I'm going to have a look at what this level is, right? So, I understand there's some movement here as well. So, on the 1 hour, sorry, on the 30, let's have a look at what it looks like in our levels, sort of around here. So, when price is driving, we're looking for those sells around here to come down, right? Once it taps these sorts of areas, you could be looking for it slightly earlier at around 1831 sorts of areas. So let's mark this up first. So 1831, maybe slightly higher around here. I'm looking at these candles, right? These just rejected. So I'm looking for this initial rejection, just a very quick push up, right? If it comes back down to here, I will not be taking it a second time. But 1831 looks pretty good, right? So let's look at what this looks like, where we just had this. So I'm looking for quick rejections, right? This is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this push up to here. It's 60 pips, right? Obviously, but on the smaller time frame, it's going to be smaller, right? I would only take, potentially only up to 33, but for about 20 pips, because this is the next lower high, right? So if I was taking this, it would be, because structures like this, right? You've come down from here to this candle low. You've come down, potentially pushed initially first, right? And then you could potentially only tap here and then continue ripping down. So I would only be taking that, or at least stops to break even and then let it run to potentially around these sorts of areas. But yeah, so if price wicks very aggressively into 1831, I will have a position. If it doesn't and it trickles down, which Asian volume might, all right, we're still very far away obviously, but if it does trickle down, I might not get any position here. But yeah, but we're also understanding that this 4 hour has no top wick, right? And we just mentioned that any candle usually has a top wick and a bottom wick, and that's like 80 to 90% of all candles. So yeah, so if this candle, right, closes below 1846 on the 4 hour, and then, it won't, but like the next 4 hour, if it comes down, creates like a candle which kind of looks bearish like this, with kind of, like this, right, with a bottom wick, but this wick hasn't broken the 4 hour highs yet, I'll be looking for a flip of the candle, potentially around these areas, or like anywhere between like 53, I would say 56 and 58, right? That's my kind of zone I'm looking for it to tap, and then I'll look for that flip, and I'll look for that wick entry towards these areas. So, oh fuck, I've just created so many levels. But I'll be looking for this. Why? Because this is structure again, right? So general structure looks like this. So you've come, grab this liquidity, you've come down, push down, you've come down potentially to these areas, you're breaking these ranges, coming up to retest these sorts of areas here, and then you'll come down to here. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of the sell. And in terms of the buy, you understand that either I need structure to take buys potentially slightly higher to create that monthly top wick to, I don't know where it's going to create that monthly top wick at, but if I'm taking a buy at these levels immediately, I will need a strong push with no top wick on this 4, just comes here. Even better would be if it respects on the 4, all right, if it respects, potentially like a bullish respecting like this, like if it respects like this on like a bullish candle, right? Sorry, not here for now, but like let's say it does something like this. The next candle stops ripping down, I'll take a buy immediately, and then I'll look for it to flip if it doesn't have any top wick, and I'll potentially even hold those to here. So it depends on what happens, but those are my positions if I was trading. So yeah, cool. Let's have a look at some questions. Appreciate I'm going through this relatively quickly today. I think it's pretty clear price action today, I think, so it's quite nice. I would say, yeah, we're going to continue driving down because we haven't found support anywhere yet, right? And price, most recently also grabbed more liquidity to start coming down. So there is a high chance that it will just continue ripping down. And if we're understanding that, we're looking at, potentially 1809 getting filled, or it will get filled eventually, right? And once it does get filled, we'll look for more buys around these sorts of areas. But that's just what it prints on the weekly. On the weekly, the daily, the monthly even comes down to these sorts of areas, right? So it's just likely to happen. So we're bearish until we tap these sorts of areas, then we'll make a decision. Would it make sense to identify the previous daily high and lows and use that for liquidity targets on it? That's a different trading strategy. I think I've seen those around, right? But if you look at the daily highs and lows and you understand the daily, cool. And then you're looking at, where those liquidity grabs need to be. All you need to understand is market structure, right? So if I'm looking at these candles, right, cool, the daily has broken the previous daily highs just by like a tiny amount, but what does this look like on the lower time frame? It does this, right? Come down, and it's likely you've ranged, right? You came up, you grabbed that liquidity, and then you've come down. Like, this is still the same bear structure, and this is just liquidity being grabbed. So looking at this and looking at like marking up the daily highs and lows doesn't really help me, essentially, because I can understand this in terms of market structure. So if we look at this, right, and we look at this potentially on like the 30, what does this look like? Where is my drawing? It's fucking huge now. But yeah, this is exactly what we drew, right? It came down, ranged, broke the highs, continued, right? So market structure, came down, ranged, broke the highs, continue down. So it's the same. We're just looking for the same setup, right? You might be looking at the daily, creating like marking up the highs and lows or whatever, but I'm just looking at price action, but we're looking for the same thing. Hey, nice. Cheers, Bougie. Yeah, Zay, I think buys are risky, but you just need to know where it's likely to bounce. The sells are clean though. If you get sells at around these sorts of areas to continue further down, they will be very nice. Sells mainly, but I'm watching for it. Yeah. I don't think this monthly will close doji. I think like it's difficult to tell, right? But we have so many days left. But what does a doji candle mean, right? So doji candle usually indicates there is a high chance that price is ranging in that area, number one. There's also a chance of it potentially changing market structure. Why? Because on a higher time frame doji candle, right, essentially a doji candle is this, right? So you just close like this, something like that, right? Like, let's say it's not this massive, but let's just so it's easier for me to draw. What does this mean, right? So let's say price previously was like extremely bearish, and then we were like this, right? Here. So let's say this was price previously. So we were coming down, we were making these lows or whatever. At some point we came down to create this low. We came up to these highs here, right? Came all the way down to these lows to create that lower low, right? And then we closed here, right? So what does this mean, right? Like there's also a chance that you'll just range, but because you're closing here, right, either price will continue down, which there is a chance of, or there's a chance that because this is quite a strong rejection at a potential level, you could be looking for this to happen next, right? So a doji candle can mean a lot of things, but just understanding like what a doji candle looks like in terms of market structure and depending on what time frame it's at, it is quite key. Right, what else? Yeah, no worries, Tony. What would my entry be if it retests? What is it retesting? Like, do you mean my buys? Are you looking for buys, or are you looking for sells for your retest? $18.58 levels. Let me just go back. Yeah, okay, so you're looking for sells, right? What would my entry be if it retests? So like, okay, so it's around 1858 to 1856 sorts of areas. We can drop down to that smaller time frame to see where that was exactly. But as long as it breaks this high, if it looks like it's breaking this high, right, and the 4 hour continues to not have a top wick, I'll be looking for sells around these sorts of areas. So if this 4 hour closes like this, and then the 4 hour kind of closes like bearish, below 1846, cool, I might get sells even earlier at around these sorts of areas. But if it respects, right, and the first thing it does, it just comes up and rips up to create that top wick, and it has no bottom wick, then I might be looking slightly higher. So it depends on the situation, but I'm looking for it to potentially mirror these sorts of things, right? So anywhere in these sorts of zones, because this was, it wanted to continue to drive down, you created that lower low, so you're creating that lower high to come down, and you're respecting these sorts of levels on the 4. What does it look like on the 30 and the 1? Yeah, it's just the zone. Like, I don't know where it is at the moment. Like, your level is around, I would say, here to around here, right? So your top wick could be here around 1858.4. It could be around here at like 1860, but it's like, it really depends on what market structure is printing. I would say generally it's in the zone. I would be looking for a sell from here to here, and this level I would say is 57 to 58. All right, and what does this look like? This looks exactly like what I'm looking for, right? So this wick right here just so happens that it's this wick, right? It's just because price is so technical on gold that if I'm looking at a range it's respecting, it's a high chance price has tapped that range. So it's tapped 1857. So I'm looking for either sells around here or sells around here, depending on the situation. But yeah, that's my level for now. You are kind of ranging currently here, so you could get shorter term sells if it starts ripping below here on the 15, and then it just pops up, breaks these highs at around 52. You could get some shorter term sells, but yeah, it just depends, right? It depends on market structure. Currently, I would say if you're looking at the higher time frame sorts of entries with the 4 hour not here, I would be looking for sell entries around here on the lower time frame as well. So I would appreciate that. So I understand that like price is ranging here, it's going to break the structure and then it's going to start coming up, right? And you're going to think, oh shit, on the 15 it looks like it's breaking structures coming up. But once it gets to around these areas, the 4 hour then makes sense, the 1 hour then makes sense, right? And then all of those things will start to align. Then you can look for like a 5 minute, a 1 minute potentially. That's what I've been doing. A 15.5 or 1 minute sort of change of structure around these sorts of areas, a break of the low, and then that top wick, and then it's going to start dropping, because at that point everything aligns, and those are your highest probability trades. But you can see, like here, look, we've respected 46, so this is a level. At the same time, 56 is also a level, and in between on the 15 you have many levels around here. There's many ranges around here, so just play your ranges. Understand what you're looking for. If you're playing the 15, right, your ranges are only the size of this, right, like 30 pips. If you're playing the 4 hour, your ranges are much bigger, right? Your ranges are from potentially where we're selling to come down to around here. So 1831, like what is this range here? That range is suddenly 260 pips, right? So because it's a higher time frame, it's a much larger range you're playing, but at the same time, you're risking more pips. So it could be the same percentage, but yeah, just understand that. Any other questions? If not, I will be ending it here. But yeah, pretty good analysis, I would say, for today. Sell within the zone. Put this here as well. Around there. Hey, Kurt's here as well. Yeah, cheers, man. Yeah, sorry this is earlier. I might start doing this slightly earlier for everyone. I will decide tomorrow, but we'll see. Cool. Amazing. Right. I will see you guys tomorrow. If anybody's trading Asian, have a good one. Stay safe. Have some risk management that's going for you. Don't over leverage. Don't over trade and shit like that. So amazing. Cool. Right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.